This is a Fox News alert. Moscow issuing a strong warning now to the U.S. Russian officials warning they will treat U.S.-led coalition planes and drones west of the Euphrates River as military targets. It's a threatening response to the U.S. after it shot down a Syrian fighter jet this weekend. A lot more to that story. Joining me now, Republican Senator from Georgia, David Perdue, member of the Armed Services Committee. Welcome. Good to have you with us this morning. What do you make of Russia's pushback to what's happened?
Well, this is to be expected, but to be fair, we actually warned them ahead of this incident. We called Russia, we'd set up the conversation, and it did not forestall this, so we had no choice. We have special operators in that area, so we had to make this move. I think this is a similar situation when Turkey shot down the Russian plane for violating their airspace. So this is where cooler heads, I hope, will win the day here in the next few days.
Does this suggest, though, a shift in strategy by this administration in how we're going to deal with these threats? Because we've long said to the forces we're trying to back there in Syria, we do have your back. This seems like a very concrete example now.
Well, this is exactly what we've been saying we would do, and this is the first example where we've had to do it. We put special operators in there to help train and assist. We're trying to equip in a way that will help. But this is a way that sends a message not only to Russia, but to Bashar al-Assad. No more chemical weapons, and we're going to defend the people on the ground.
Do you worry about the constant conversation about this being a proxy war, with Iran being involved, Russia involved, the U.S. involved, a lot of powers in that region involved?
Well, it's very confused. You have Iran, firing missiles just over the weekend. You've got 6 or 7 factions in there. You've got terrorists, Hezbollah, Hamas is in there. This is a very confused battle space. But the bigger issue in my mind is once this is settled, and we will get this settled eventually, is what do you do with Syria? It's a non-state today. Bashar al-Assad's got to go. I think even Russia now is beginning to realize that that's the case.
Yeah, and one of our earlier guests, Michael Wallace, was talking about the fact that it's an oil-rich region. And so there are going to be a lot of players interested in the outcome, the post-Assad, whatever it is.
No question. But the economy has got to be rebuilt. I mean, we need a global Marshall Plan. There's 65 million refugees walking the face of the earth today, many of them in that region. We've got to find a way to give those people a reason to go home and have a reasonable life once this is over.
I want to talk to you, too, about what's going on in your home state, a big election tomorrow. And a lot of people think it's a referendum on how the president is doing in his first few months in office. What's at stake there? A race I've heard described as one of the most expensive in history.
Well, it is. It was a special election, so when Tom Price assumed the secretary position. But, Karen Handler's going to win. We just have to get the Republican vote out.
It's pretty tight.
It is, but this Democrat is not who he says he is. And people in Georgia begin to figure that out after a while. There's been enough money spent to expose that. But I think the people of Georgia are recognizing what President Trump has done. He won the state handily. He won this district. And as a matter of fact, I believe Karen Handel is going to win. She's the best person. She's from that district, and nobody knows that district better than Karen Handel.
But you know that both sides are very energized right now.
They are.
So what does it say? A win for either side?
Well, I think if the Democrats win, I think it's a wake-up call, and particularly in that district, because I think that district, first of all, President Trump did not come to Georgia and campaign. We advised him not to do that because he was going to win the state big. So he never had a chance to defend himself against a lot of the accusations that were made. That's number one. Number two, this is not a referendum on Georgia. Georgia is not moving to a red state or blue state. And I believe that this election is going to prove that Tuesday.
Meantime, there's a lot of work going on back in D.C. You guys, as Senator Barrasso was just here talking about healthcare, you've got tax reform, debt ceiling, all kinds of things. But I know that one of your things that you want to really push for is getting back to regular order on things like the budget. It hasn't been that way for years. How do you make it change?
Oh, Shannon. We need an hour to talk about this. I mean, this budget process is broken. It's not worked but 4 times in 42 years, all before 1980. The Budget Act of '74 is broken. We've had 178 continuing resolutions. Continuing resolutions hamstring our military.
And those are just short-term measures.
Absolutely. So continuing resolution just gets us passed. And then, by the way, we only have 37 working days between now and the end of this fiscal year. So we're guaranteed we're not going to have regular order appropriation. We've only averaged 2.5 appropriation bills a year over the last 43 years, to fund the government. We should appropriate 12 appropriation bills every year.
We can't do that at home. How does it work in Washington? I mean, we all have to have budgets and pay bills and know what our forecast is going to be.
Well, here's how it works. We go to China and we borrow every dollar we spend on discretionary spending in this country. That's what's happened over the last 8 years. We're going to add $10 trillion over the next decade to a $20 trillion debt today. That's what the current CBO baseline budget says. But the runaway costs here are in the mandatory, the $3 trillion of our $4 trillion expenditures.
Well, we're going to watch and see, because I know there's a growing movement to make that change in Washington. We'll see if you get some traction. Senator, thanks for coming in.
Yeah, thank you.